and keeping me on the straight and narrow. I'm so impressed with what CLiC does for their people. And so when I was invited to be here, it was just truly a privilege for me to be part of this. So I just want to say thank you for that. And honestly, thank you for showing up. I recognize you guys had choices on where you were going to spend your time here today. And so I want to say thank you for spending the time with me and investing into yourself here today. So what we are going to talk about are setting those boundaries. As a life coach and a mental conditioning coach, I have had the privilege of working with thousands of individuals like yourselves who have chose to serve your community as a career. I have worked with those in law enforcement, first responders, firefighters, those in the medical industry, and pilots. And all of your careers have one thing in common, and that is that you're working with people who have their own initiatives and they don't really think much about yours. So it is your responsibility to own your story, to own your boundaries. And so we're going to work today on what that really looks like. I've spent the last decade developing some specific skill sets that have helped my clients live into their best version of themselves while still effectively connecting with the people and the communities that they serve. And I've helped them, these processes have helped them find that work-life balance to restore the passion that they once had for the career of their choice, and really bringing them back to life and giving them the life that they really deserve at work and at home. So we're going to do just a few things today. Over the next 45 minutes, we're just going to talk about the 4 basic skills that are going to help you really live into the full value of yourself while building your boundaries. We're going to talk about the ABCs of mindfulness, what it means to be really present and how to get there. We're going to talk about metacognition, which is just the fancy word for thinking about what you're thinking about, and the awareness of those thoughts and how to choose other thoughts at the time that you need to most. And then establishing your values. This self-awareness is foundational to being able to setting boundaries. And so that self-awareness means that we need to know our values, and then setting and creating and setting those boundaries and how to put that into action. Let's see. So we could just put walls up around us and consider ourselves safe and don't let anybody in. But at the same time, if we're not letting anybody in, we're not able to get out. And we're not able to access this amazing world that we get to be part of. We don't get to experience love and learning and connection. And so the boundary parts is where we really just help people understand what our comfort level is, what our tolerance is. We teach people how to treat us and what's acceptable for us. As people pleasers, and we find that making people happy makes us happy. And so that is a very short-lived high. What we end up doing is, after and in hindsight, we end up being kind of regretful, remorseful, and sometimes resentful. For me, this epiphany happened several years ago when I was working for a boss who I absolutely loved. He was a combination of a mentor, a teacher, and at times a big brother for me. I worked with people that I loved working for. I had a job I loved doing. There was everything about this job that I loved except for the 12-hour work days and the 1-hour commute back and forth each day. And the amount of work that was entailed. I was working for a large major airline. And so part of that, it's a 24/7 operation. And so I just always had to be on. So I went to my boss one day with letter in hand that I'm going to give my letter of resignation. And in the midst of this conversation, tears and all of that happening, my boss begins to tell me how great I am and what a difference I make, and how important I am to the department, to the operation, to the industry. Just really put it all out there. And I'm like sitting up taller and wiping all the tears away, grab my letter of resignation, and I walk out the door. And at the end of that day, the very long 12-hour day, I'm on the drive home in the dark, and then it hits me. What the heck did I just do? Like, once again, all I did was take on more. And really, it's because I really enjoyed doing what I am doing. I enjoyed doing it for who I was working for, but I was not taking care of myself. And so it really did build up a lot of resentment and a lot of unhealthy habits, and really allowed people to treat me in a way that wasn't healthy for me. And these healthy boundaries that we set, it could have enhanced my friendships and my relationships. There should be a level of trust and safety. And not that my boss was a cruel person. His values were different than mine. Therefore, his boundaries were different than mine. And so it came time where I had to put myself first and really take a look at what that value was for me in the workplace. I still love working, I will say that. But the healthy boundaries part, why is it important? What are the advantages of it? And why do we really want to? Why do we care? So I want to just take a second. We're going to use the annotation tool here to kind of interact, or if you feel like taking yourself off mic, feel free to do that. But let's talk about, the advantages of having healthy boundaries. So if you're using the annotation tool, if you look at the top of the toolbar up there, you can do a drop down where it will say annotate. If you click on that, and then you click anywhere you want to on that screen that's in front of you, it's going to open up a text box. You'll go ahead and type in there your reason why. Thanks, Kim. And go ahead and share what you think the advantages of having healthy boundaries are. And Anna's going to be my Sherpa and continue to guide us through this. If you're having trouble, you can either put it in the chat or chat Anna directly, and she can help you to help set priorities. I love that. So true. We're just going to take a couple minutes here. Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, in the annotate tool, the tool you're going to select is the text tool. So if you want to type, you can select the text tool once you open that annotate menu in view option.
Thank you, Anna. I'd be lost without her, I'm telling you. All right. Avoid burnout, maintain love for your work. Yes. See, that's really, really, I see that happen all the time where people have really good intentions. Like I did, respect, love that. Self-respect and respect for others, right? Work and personal life balance, clear expectations for all. And it is that clarity that we're going to talk about too, of, having a clear mind of what those boundaries are and making sure that other people know what those are as well. Awesome. Thank you.
And Sandra says, knowing when to say no. And we're going to talk about that later.
We are. The 2-letter statement. I love that one. All right. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to ask Anna to go ahead and capture this, something that we can use and come back to, or she will share with us. And then I'm going to go ahead and clear that when you're ready then, Anna. Let me hit my tools here. Are you good? Okay. All right. So here is my imagination, and just play along with me here. So our minds are constantly going. And these two glasses, if you kind of bring them together and kind of play along with me, if we were to take a clear glass after a stormy day and we were to scoop up all this water into this clear glass, and we would see the debris and we would see the murkiness of the water. Really what this is I like to think of this debris. These are the thoughts that go on. These are the phone calls, the commute, the bills, the schedules, all of these to-do, to-don'ts, and the ruminating that we do, right? And then the murkiness, those are the emotions that are tied to all of that debris. Now, if we let a glass settle and we just let it sit on a table for about 2 minutes, all of that stuff will begin to settle and we're going to find more clarity. But we're not so good about doing that. We're just going to keep stirring it up all day long. And not only do we stir it up, but we stir it up and we share it with others over and over and over again. And so we keep it active. But the idea of just letting it settle and giving ourselves that clarity, this is mindfulness. Mindfulness is nothing more than the human ability to become fully present in the current moment without biases, without judgment, and without calling anything right or wrong. And so the things that we have going on, this is just stories that we're telling all day to ourselves and to others. And so I'm going to invite you to practice a short little sit session where we can actually let all of the debris that we brought with us into this time that we're spending together, not by any intention, except that it's just there. And so we're going to sit for just a moment, and we're going to let our glass just settle. So I'm going to invite you to sit comfortably in your chair, and you're going to sit up nice and straight. Put your feet flat on the ground. Shelley, were you standing? It kind of looked like you were in a standing space. Are you comfortable? Sure. Okay. So what we're going to do is just being comfortable. We're going to close down our eyes, and I'm going to kind of bring you through a process of just getting present in the moment. And so following my voice and my guide, I want you to think of two different pieces as we go through this. One piece is your attention, and the other piece is your focus. Think about attention as something we can move around, and focus is where we're going to place our attention. So my attention's my keys, and my focus is the desk where I'm going to put my keys, okay? So as we're guiding through, or as I'm guiding you through, that's what you're going to kind of be thinking about. So we're going to close down our eyes, and we're just going to relax, and mine are closed too, because otherwise it just feels weird here by myself. So we'll just close down our eyes and just relax for a moment, and I want you to connect with your breath, noticing your breath and just relaxing. Becoming aware of your environment, becoming aware of the seat beneath you, and just breathe. And now I'm going to ask you to pick up your attention, that movable item, and we're going to place our attention to the inside of our eyes, the sight we have, right? So we're going to hold our attention and focus on the inside of our eyelids, letting go of all biases, all other thoughts and stimulation, and just focus our attention right there. Hold your attention to anything you notice on the inside of your eyelids. Relax and just breathe and be present there. And now I'm going to invite you to pick up your attention again, and we're going to move it to sound. And I want to invite you to notice the sounds in the room. Again, removing any kind of biases, any type of judgment or opinion about what you're hearing, and just becoming present in the moment. This is what it is. Hold your attention and focus on sound. And then we're going to pick up our attention again. And we're going to move our attention and focus on smell. And even if you smell nothing at all, that's the point of all of this. Nothing should have a value to us. Everything is just what it is at this moment. So picking up your attention, placing your focus on the smells, and just hold your attention there and just breathe and relax. And now we're going to pick up our attention again, and let's move our attention inside of our mouth, noticing the taste inside of our mouth. So holding our attention and focusing there, no judgments, no ruminating on where it came from. It's nothing except for at this moment, this is the taste inside your mouth. Just relax. And let's pick up your attention one more time, and we're going to move it to the sense of touch, that sense of feeling. So maybe you notice the collar around your neck or the sleeve around your arm, whatever you notice, sensation of a touch. So if nothing else, your fingertips together, and just pick up your attention, hold your focus on one area that you feel a sense of touch, and hold your focus there and just breathe and relax. And with your eyes still closed down, I'm going to ask you to now pick up your attention and move it to the bottom of your feet. Using your imagination, just notice the bottom of your feet, your socks around your feet, your shoes around your socks. And imagine your attention just moving a little bit up into your legs, into your knees, into your seat, into your hips, your back, your shoulders. Just letting go and relaxing. Take a deep breath in for 2 counts. Hold for 1, let it go. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes. That's rapid rate getting present. How we feeling? Present? Awesome. So really it's just about slowing down your mind and so that you can be fully present. We're letting all of that debris settle, all of the emotions settle, and we're getting so much more space to be available. You gave your time to be here today. Now we've got giving you 62% more bandwidth to take in all of the things that you're going to be learning today. So this practice really is what gets us into the present moment, where we can truly be aware, we can be willing to accept what is, we can observe things for the facts that they are, and we get to choose what we want to be intentional about and how we want to move forward throughout our day. When we're not present, we are in this face of all of this other disorder and this overwhelmment that can come to us. We're in the past or we're in the future. Meanwhile, the present moment just keeps moving on. And when we're in the past, we're talking about the what was, the regret, the shame, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and the depression really does come from here. When I talk about that glass settling, and living in the past, the things that are spinning around in there could be something as simple as your commute, or it could be as simple as, okay, a conversation that I might have had this morning with my husband that I was ruminating about. And if I just sit still for a minute, I might be able to acknowledge that he was right. And I would just tell you in this room that that is what was. But when I'm living in the past and I'm dragging that with me, it does not serve me and it doesn't serve my relationship. Now, some of that other debris from the future really is going to come from a place of what will be, what could be. We live in this place of fear and we begin to doubt ourselves, which brings about all this insecurity, worry. And this is where anxiety resides. It is in this space that at this point we don't have control of, but all these possibilities can happen. The past are things that we cannot change. But what's really cool is in the present moment, we can take the lessons learned because I know now what I didn't know then and apply them to this moment right here that will allow me to be intentional of what's going to happen next. But the idea of being fully present is where we actually get things done and where we actually can be the most productive. So mindfulness falls into this whole, setting boundaries and the fact that we really want to know ourselves. That moment of where we can just sit quietly and notice all the debris and notice all the emotions that we have around it, and perhaps all the stories that we're telling ourselves about the conversation that I had, that maybe I wasn't right, or the commute that maybe it wasn't that bad. We dramatize these things. And so just sitting like we did, becoming aware of the seat where we are, getting in touch with our breath and just breathing. You may also notice that I had asked you to count. And so we'll bring that into play here a little bit. And the counting is really important. I have learned so much from professionals that I've worked with. So the first thing that I learned was from firefighters that when they come to an event and they are asking you for dates and times and addresses, that they do need that, but they also use your response as a way to determine your cognitive aptitude. So are you able to actually be present in the moment? And because the brain cannot function in a logical place and in an emotional place at the same time, that asking you to produce logic, which is numbers, it will slow down the emotional response. For those of you who have kids and you tell them, I'm going to count to 3 and you're going to pull it together, have them count instead. They will have to get the emotions into check in order to count, and then they can calm themselves down. But the same thing happens for us. So the counting, the Marines use something called box breath, and it's an inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and then hold for a count of 4. The mind and the body connecting together. We use this in our metacognition, thinking about what we're thinking about and how we bring all those things together, the choices we make, the decisions we make. These are all reflective of our values and what's really important to us. And so those things that we don't articulate to others should show up in the way that we walk, in the way that we talk, in the way that we show up. Now, for me, with my previous job that I really enjoyed doing, it was part of my role as the professional performance instructor with the pilots is that I got to be part of their wing ceremonies. And so then that meant that I had to be at the training center by 6 a.m., which means I needed to leave home by 5 a.m., which means I needed to get up at 4 a.m. in order to make it there. That was my choice with my job. So then therefore I made decisions that supported that choice. And I took actions that supported the decisions. And I was able to take full ownership of my job. Now, getting up that early and driving that early is, doesn't bring all the joy in the world. And so one particular day, I'm driving into work and somebody cut me off. And I had an emotional response. And I decided I would get right back in front of that person who just cut me off. Not knowing his story, not knowing, I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but as I went to go around him, he gave me the one finger wave. And so with that, it just kind of like built this whole anxiety up inside of me. Now I had a whole bunch of stories about how, this happened to me. It was just big injustice. I drove for another 20 minutes to work. And again, this is something I got up for to do because I loved doing it. I loved being a part of this. And by the time I got to work, I was so spun up over something that happened 20 minutes ago. I drug all of that into the training center with me. And I'm telling everybody the story. And so I'm rehashing it and I'm spinning that cup up and I'm drawing them all into it. And now they all have their YouTube moments, right? Where they had those things happen as well. So we really need to be careful about what we're doing and how we're doing it, because that wasn't a reflection of who I am. Who I am at work is very different than somebody who's going to drag around all the drama. So we all love Brene Brown. Everybody loves Brene Brown. So I use Brene Brown and her values here in our conversation. And that is because we have to know what our values are and what those values are and how we live through them. So I'm going to say that for me at work, my values is contribution, it's empathy, and it's compassion. And so for me to show up at work being so mad and bad talking somebody that I don't even know what their story was, that's out of integrity for me. That is not truly one of my values. And so then therefore I was not being a good version of myself. And so these values fall into different categories of our lives. And we're going to share this sheet with you, something that you can have as a resource. Anna's going to put some links for you in our chat. And so you guys will be able to take these away, because I want you to have some actionable things that you can take away to work on, and maybe that you could even share with others. But knowing your values and using this as a resource can be really helpful. I'm going to just kind of pop right past this slide here. And I'm going to give you just a real quick snapshot of what you're going to be getting. So we had created this little spreadsheet here that you're going to get, and it covers the primary categories in our lives. And we may be just one person, but we have different roles. And depending on where we are, Shawn Handlovitch here is going to be a different Shawn Handlovitch at work versus as a mom or as a daughter, but I'm still one person. So what I need to do is I need to take a look at these different categories of my life and say, in my job and my career, empathy and contribution are really important for me. Now, contribution and empathy probably won't show up in my work health and wellness balance, right? It's going to be different values that are going to play a part there. And so we're going to give you the worksheet here that you'll be able to identify in these categories of what your values are. And then you'll also have a takeaway of that Brene Brown sheet that you can kind of use as a resource as you're filling this in. The point is, all these categories in your life, you need to be in alignment with those around you, right? That you want to make sure that other people know what your values are so that they can respect those, and that you're really clear on what your values are as well. You want to be with coworkers, and you want to be in a work environment that supports, if nothing else, supports your values, right? And so there's some additional work that can be done as far as setting up your, your own mission and vision statements that can also align with your values. But knowing your values is really important as a piece of that self-awareness to setting up for success, for setting your boundaries. So I mentioned that you are one person, but you play multiple roles. That plays suit for everybody. Everybody has their own initiative. Everybody has their own plan. They have their own values and they have their own boundaries. But what's really important is that you know your own, and that you make sure that you're clear with that with others. And I love this subject because it came from a conversation that I had with my son when he was about 3 years old. And I had said this statement, I am me and you are you. And he got furious. And he was like, I am me, you are you. And it just kind of brought this to light, right? That it's like we're all walking around with I'm me. And we want others to be like me, or others expect us to be like them. But it's really, we have to know who we are, and knowing who we are in this moment. So right now, I am still Shawn Handlovitch, but I am Shawn Handlovitch, the consultant. And what I have agreed to do is to be here and to share my time and my knowledge and my experiences with you. I am maybe at home, but for me, these virtual times that we get together, I get to share this space with you. And so I want to be dressed properly, and I want to hold myself accordingly. Shawn, who goes to work out, looks and is very different, but it's still Shawn. But the big thing for me is why. When I had that job that had me getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and driving into work, there were a lot of people that were like, no way. Why I did it was because I loved being part of a journey. I love being part of an individual such as yourself who has made a commitment to a community. You deserve all the support, admiration, and respect in the world. And so for me, in that situation, for me to be here, it's because I really care about this. I love working, and I think everybody who is pursuing something that is of a service career should enjoy doing it as well. And so kind of goes into, how do you represent yourself as your true best self? I think people who serve in the community are humble heroes, honestly. You don't have a lot of control over things, and you're constantly having to fight things and to manage things. And so the way that you all handle it is just incredibly challenging for some of us. So this list here, I think, are things that we want to watch out within ourselves when we notice that we're kind of spiraling and that we're kind of stuck in these drama thoughts, as I like to call them. I came up with these over working with different people over the years and kind of hearing these common themes. Now, you guys probably could run through these, and maybe you know somebody who is notorious for jumping to conclusions. It just seems to be their go-to. And maybe you notice some of your own behaviors in here. I kind of lean a little bit more about the flaw fixation, where it's like, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong. And I forget to be curious about how we can make it right, how we can make it better, or maybe how I'm just not seeing it correctly. But this list here, we're going to make available to you guys as well, because it's really a great resource for you to be aware of within yourself, but noticing within others. And this isn't necessarily a personality flaw as much as it is just an opportunity to be aware of a behavior and not being sucked into that negativity or sucked into somebody else's drama, and drawing those boundaries there for you as well. So let's talk about what it really means to set boundaries. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take all of these details together, all these things that we worked on. So we're going to take, getting present. We're going to take, that self-awareness, self-talk, and our values that we kind of have a grasp on. And we're going to use all of this together to be able to create the version of ourselves that we really want to be. One of the other fascinating things I learned was that the mind itself doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. And because of that, and it's been proven through people while they're sleeping, right? That we have a physical expression to the dreams that we're having, whether it's a night terror and you wake up in sweats, your body is responding to what the mind is experiencing. When you feel like you're falling and your whole body kind of jerks, again, that's not actually happening, but it's happening for the mind, therefore the body responds. Therefore, we can safely say that everything happens twice. Everything is created twice. The table that you're sitting in front of, the shoes that you're wearing, the words that we say, the steps that we take, everything starts here. And then through those choices, decisions, actions, then we really begin to develop what's going to happen next. So that's the difference between the present and the future. The cool thing is if we can tell ourselves, well, because I know now what I didn't know in the past, and I can apply that knowledge to when I go into the future, we get to do that every moment that we open our mouth, every moment that we realize what I'm doing now is out of integrity of who I am. What I'm doing now is not a value of who I am. And so in the situation with my boss, where, I'm sitting here letting somebody overtake my time and, cross over the boundaries of respect there, in that moment when I saw that happening, it was my responsibility to say, I'm not comfortable with this. This doesn't work for me. And where I could have had a respectful conversation where I would have felt like I was being heard, being valued. Instead, I felt taken advantage of, and I felt that I was not being respected. But I wasn't clear on those boundaries at that time. And so now that I am clear on that, when those moments happen where, my kids are going to call and they're going to want something at the last minute from me, and maybe it's money, maybe, I have now the mindset to say, I'm not doing that again. That goes outside my comfort zone. A, I'm not teaching you anything. And B, I'm not an ATM. So those are my boundaries that I have to be really clear with. Now, I could be manipulative about it and I could say, oh, no, I don't have it right now. And I can make up all these stories. That's not going to change the relationship. And that's not going to change my son's perspective of me, right? So these are things that my being clear and my knowing my boundaries is what's really going to help me define that for myself and for others and hold that to be true. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another little sit session, and we're going to take all of these amazing, beautiful skills that we have gained, and we're going to apply those into visualizing your most ideal self and what that looks like. And knowing what you know now and putting that into the visualization, that magical brain that we get to create something for the next time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you to think about something, an event that's coming up in the near future that you want to be prepared for, or maybe even something that has happened recently that's kind of stuck on your shoe that you can't let go, that you're ruminating about. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all these practices and allow you to actually create that moment where you can imagine yourself as the best version. You're going to become familiar with what it feels like, which means you're going to be comfortable with it, which means when the moment actually happens, that you're going to be confident to handle it. Now, if you're stuck in something that you're ruminating with, we can still have the same outcome. You can recreate that and allow yourself to actually experience it in a way that, like, I know my better self now. So you relive it in a way in your mind that says this was the ideal outcome. And now going forward, I know what that feels like. This is where that statement of no comes from as well. If what you're getting ready to prepare for or what you're trying to get rid of involves you saying that big statement, this is a good place to practice that and being comfortable with it. How would you say no without making it a big story, without having to exaggerate or come out of integrity of yourself? How would you say no in that? So thinking about the future event or the previous event that you want to recreate, I'm going to invite you again to sit comfortably. Placing your feet on the ground again. Relaxing your hands, relax your shoulders, and just sit back. And I'll guide you through again. And just as you're still, just entertain the thoughts. They're kind of like kids, your thoughts are. And sometimes if you don't give them attention, it's kind of like, you know, when they're like, me, I'm ready. And then when you call on them, they're like, oh, I forgot. So when your thoughts come to you, just kind of acknowledge them and then go back to your breath and let's go back into the present moment. But don't try to wrestle it or resist it, okay? So just relaxing for a moment. And we're just going to start by noticing our breath. And for me, the thing that brings me into the moment as I'm breathing, ideally breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, it's that air touching the tip of my nose as I inhale. And I notice as it's coming through the back of my throat, down my lungs. And then I'll do the same thing if you're more comfortable breathing through your lips. Same thing, filling the air as it moves over your teeth, beyond your tongue, down the back of your throat again. And we're going to inhale. And ideally, you're going to exhale out your mouth and just releasing that air and just relax. And now I'm going to ask you about picking up your attention, and we're going to move that around a little bit. But before I do that, I'm going to introduce to you the box breath. And again, so that was the Marine's breathing technique of connecting the mind and body together. And so we'll inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, release for a count of 4, and then hold for a count of 4, imagining a box. So on your next inhale, you'll inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 4, 3, 2, 1, release for 1, 2, 3, 4, and relax for 4, 3, 2, 1, and just let go and go back to your normal breath again, breathing comfortably. I'm going to invite you to pick up your attention again, and let's place it at the bottom of your feet again, using your imagination. And if you'd like, you can give your attention some color. And so you can kind of see that color coming from underneath your feet and wrapping up over your feet. And then you'll notice that attention as it moves up into your ankles, to your shins, into your calves, using that color as a reminder to just relax the muscles, relax your knees and the backs of your knees. Relax your legs, the front and the back of your legs, noticing yourself in the seat of your chair or the gravity beneath you. Relaxing your hips, letting all of that tension go. Relax your abdomen and your lower back. Again, just releasing any tension, breathing comfortably. Relax your shoulders, the middle of your back. Take your attention and move it down into your arms, down into your fingers. Just letting all that tension go. Move your attention up into your neck. Let that tension go. Drop your jaw, release your tongue. Relax your cheekbones. Notice the weight of your eyes against your eyelids, all the way to the top of your head. Or maybe you even notice a tingling sensation. But from the top of your head now down to your toes, just noticing that relaxed feeling of being truly in the present moment. And just breathe. And now in this relaxed state, I want you to think about that event that's coming up or that event that you want to create for yourself. And using your imagination, I want you to imagine yourself. You are standing there and what you are wearing this day. What is your most powerful outfit? What is the most powerful pair of shoes? What is the thing that makes you really feel powerful? Where are you standing? Who are you with? And where are you at? What is the weather like? And what do you notice about the space, the familiarity of the space? Using your imagination, bring yourself into that situation. Who is involved in the situation? What is the interaction about? And just taking a breath for a moment and bringing into play the value that was overlooked in this with you in the past and that you anticipate being overlooked in the future. What is that value that you want to make sure that you represent? The compassion, the kindness, the generosity, the wisdom, the patience. What is that value you want to bring into this version of you? What does it feel like, that value, when you respect yourself and you demonstrate it? What does it feel like? We have all been in a situation where we have already been the best version of ourselves. The first day of work. What does it feel like to be the very best version of yourself? And how can you bring that best version into these unwanted, undesired, or unfavorable events? How does the best version of yourself handle it? And what does done look like? What does it feel like when it's all past and over with? You were respected and you were respectful. You were heard and you were listening. And what does that feel like? Again, the mind doesn't know the difference. And the more familiar you can make yourself with this feeling, the easier it will be to come back to this feeling with or without your eyes closed. When you notice that you want to do something different, when you notice you want to do something better, you have that opportunity as soon as you notice it needs, that it's missing. In just a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you to become aware again of the room, the seat beneath you. And I'm going to ask you to breathe, and we're going to do the box breath again before we come out of this. So on your next inhale, we'll inhale now for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Release for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Come back to your own breath. Come back to this space. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Saying no is something that we're not comfortable with. And the one thing I always ask people when it talks about having this one word statement is, how comfortable are you when people tell you no? Because what I learned about myself was that I had a hard time saying no because I had a hard time accepting no from other people. We don't need to make a statement. We don't have to tell a story. We can just say, I'd rather not. I'm not comfortable. I've decided not to. And so you're also going to have a copy of this list. And these are things that I practiced saying. I would practice saying in my visualizations, and I would practice saying on my way into work. And I would remind myself in the midst of a conversation with someone that I found myself telling a story about, that I would just rather not. And I don't want to keep arguing about it. So there is a powerful word there. And it is the answer no. But for you, for today, I hope that you've learned how to set those boundaries, how to give yourself the love and respect and the self-care that you deserve, and that you really are a humble hero, and that you really are important to your community. But it is so important that you get to decide what doors, and don't build those walls around yourself. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate all that you do. Anna?
Thanks, Shawn. I feel so much calmer. I hope everyone else does. Thanks everyone for being here. We really appreciate your time. There is one more session. If you can join us back in the Cather room, we'll be doing a short presentation on the Colleague on Call service. These handouts, I linked some of them in the chat, the values ones, and then the rest will be available along with the video of this session once those are posted up on the CLiC website. So we don't really have time for Q&A, but I'm sure if you all have things that you need to reach Shawn about, we can get you in touch with her, or if you would like her to come and lead some kind of, visualization or exercise with your staff or something, I'm sure we can help connect you with her. So I think that's everything for this afternoon. Thanks so much for being here with us this first day. And if you can't join us back in the Cather room, we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, for the full Friday winter workshop sessions.
Thank you all.